Thanks again for making the time and tuning in to Jay Fuller Interviews. Yes, my name is Jeff Fuller, Jay Fuller Interviews on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Jay Fuller Interviews, and now the Backfire Podcast with Jeff Fuller of Jay Fuller Interviews. We believe people's stories make our stories much better if we will take the time, and listen to unlearn what we thought was right to relearn what is right. One with a tremendous story is Chris Holmes. Chris, welcome in.
Thanks for having me.
So, where are you located right now?
So, I'm located in the Houston area, Houston, Texas, that is, where you have the Houston Texans, the Rockets, and all that by the Gulf of Mexico. So, yeah, I'm the southbound of the United States. So, I pretty much like it. You know how they say everything's big in Texas, and it's all about achieving big dreams and more. So, all about elevating.
How old are you, Chris?
I'm about 22 now. I'm playing. So my actual age is 29, but I know that if I shave this, I'm screwed. So I got to have a little something to keep me look a little older. But I take care of myself. I'm 29, but in a few months I'll be 30. So I'll be in the 30 door in a
There you
few.
go.
But yeah.
Well, happy birthday. I'm 46, and nobody can believe that I was born in 1975, but I was. So, hey, there you
Now
go.
you just jumped in the fountain of youth. That's all it is. Look at that $1 million smile.
Well, Chris, thanks again for making the time. We just want to talk a little bit about your story. Did you grow up in the Houston area?
So not really. So my hometown is in Huntsville, Texas, where Sam Houston State Bearcats, they just won a national title in their
Yes,
area.
sir.
So I got to go ahead and shout out my eat 'em up cats. And so and later on I transitioned into the Houston area where I do most of my business. But I grew up in Huntsville, like very humble beginnings, mostly raised by my mom, grandparents, and them in a church home where they taught me a lot of basically foundation to grow me and to have like something to follow on. And then of course through experiences and meeting like coaches and much more, I became more into different experiences, just learning what not to do through mistakes, because you learn from your mistakes, and just becoming like the best version of myself. So most of my life I was born in the Huntsville area with humble beginnings, and where in the future I did go to Sam Houston, graduated from there for the Bearcats, and we can dive even more on to that if we want to. So I
Yeah.
have a little interest and touch on that, but it's all inspirational to elevate people.
Real good. Again, this is Chris Holmes on Instagram. It's at C Holmes, and there's an E at the end. So it's CHOLMES _ on Instagram. Chris, did you have any siblings?
So no, I'm an only child. So I think that with that, it allowed time for my imagination and creativity to go. So I was a person who always thought a lot of different things on like life, or just kind of being creative with writing and much more, because you get so many different influences. So of course, yeah, every child has a moment where they have been a little kid. But as I got older, I had time to really think on different things, write more, and explore more, listen to different things, and then experience. And I think that allowed me to actually go outside my comfort zone and do different things. Because the interesting thing about that is in high school, I was writing a lot of different poetry pieces and much more. I had a heavy influence. A big influence in my life when it came to writing poetry was Tupac Shakur and his book, The Rose That Grew from a Concrete. Because I thought, the original poetry had to be like rose red, violet blue. This is on the early stages. And then I read that book, and it had a book of poems by Tupac Shakur. And it actually opened my mind. There's different forms and types of ways you can express yourself as any other art. And I just carried that influence and started writing more in high school. And then started sharing with friends, and they started liking it. And then I had the guts to show it to my teacher and said, "Oh, this is dope." And after that, it just flew off, and I just kept going. And by the time I graduated high school, I had like a whole. This is before all this
Yeah.
um, Adobe and all that and much
Yeah.
more. I
Yeah.
had like a stack of paper, so I went old school, just writing a pen, put in the folder, writing the pen, put in the folder, and trying to keep a stack of it.
Who nurtured that creativity in you? You said you were raised primarily by your mom and your grandparents. Were they all for you doing that, or were they telling you you're going to have to get a real job someday, so just learn something that might be more meaningful at that time in your life?
So my mom, I would say she would be, yes, pursue it, but probably a little bit more on, yeah, you need to get a job. My grandparents, especially my grandma, she was more of like pursue whatever your passion is and much more. And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of times I went to my grandma, so that was like the exit way to do some more of the things. But I'm thankful for that because it allowed me to express myself in many different ways, because it allowed me to go outside my comfort zone. Because mostly we, especially in business or a lot of things, they say like a job is like a fundamental thing of a safety net, because in entrepreneurship, especially in creativity, there's like no safety net. If
Yeah.
you don't, it's just like a straight job. So hearing the wisdom and love from my grandma allowed me, and my grandpa, because my grandpa was in a music group called the
Hmm.
Southern Paraders. So both of those allowed me to express myself and just take on chances with me to be creative like that. Even though I knew the safety net was gone, I was willing to take chances like that.
Now, Chris, Soul Productions One, that's on Instagram as well. You can follow at Soul Productions One. A little bit of what you're doing now. Just talk to me about this creativity and coming out in this fashion. Is this what you always dreamt of, or did it just kind of grow in a way that went, in a direction you didn't anticipate to begin with?
So the funny thing about that, Soul Production originally started as just a T-shirt business,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
kind of crazy. Like what, you went to media straight from T-shirts? Yes, that's one heck of a storyline. So it started off as just T-shirts, just expressing different quotes and much more from highly impacting people, like from Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, expressing a voice. And it just grew from there. And then the pictures of the cameras came later on when I was helping out a good friend. One of my best friends at the time, he bought this expensive camera, and I thought he was crazy for this. So I was like, "You spent all that money on this camera?" And this is during the time, oh God, MySpace. So a
Yeah.
bunch of
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
wanted to have a nice profile picture, and he was talking about how this expensive camera was going to have us nice sharp pictures. And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's very sharp, but I'm not spending that kind of money on that kind of camera." It's like, "All right, whatever, just take the pictures of me." I'm like, "Okay, whatever," but I'm not buying one of these. Put the camera in my hand. I didn't know what exactly I was doing. It was all auto settings, just being
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, I think this is how you snap it." And then I was like, "Okay, whatever." And then gave him back the camera. He's like, "Oh, these are nice. Do it again. You putting this expensive camera back in my hand? All right." To do some more photos.
Yeah.
And then gave it back. He's like, "Oh, okay. You might have a camera eye." And I don't know why that stuck in my head when I went home. And you have that. I think it's a transition. Like, do I have a camera? Nah, I don't. He was playing. I ain't getting that camera much. Nah, it's
Hmm.
too expensive. So I feel like that is like the progression, because a lot of people go through that in business or being creative. They had a little battle inside the mind, like, should I pursue this, or should I not? And I said, I'm gonna take a chance. I did not spend that kind of much money on my first camera. I would say that right now. I did not, because I didn't have that kind of money for that camera. I went to Walmart and bought, I think the camera name was like Coolpix or something. I think it
All
was
right.
Coolpix. I'm pretty sure it was Coolpix. One of those $40, $50 cameras with the free software. And it was like about probably the size of my hand. Probably a little bit smaller. I got big hands. But this is like the size that I took that camera out, took some pictures of things around the house. I was like, okay, I'm going to try my best with this free software, free, to make
Yeah.
this look good. So take some pictures, do some editing with the free software, post them online. Oh, these are nice. All right, cool. Went from there, and then I was like, maybe I need to take a pictures of a person. This is a very good nugget for somebody, taking a leap of faith, just try new things. And then I was like, I need a person. Called a homegirl up. Uh, you feel like being a model? I know she was phone crazy. Sure. So I'm over here outside in downtown, uh, in the Huntsville area, taking pictures with my small camera, acting like I got this big expensive camera. And I know other people driving by like, what the heck are y'all doing? These kids are doing something crazy. But after I posted those pictures, it sparked, because they're like, oh, okay, you do professional photos?
Hmm.
Yeah. How much you charge? How much I charge? Google was trying to think of
Right.
something
Right.
like,
Right.
this price. All right, cool. I want to book you for this day. All right. And it just kept momentum from like taking pictures of different people in my area, then local artists. And it just kept going from there, because I had to figure out, at one point I got bigger gear. And I was like, okay, I got to get a camera, like an actual DSLR. And that was during my college days. I took my refund, taking advantage of your resources.
Yeah.
You get the little money from your grants and all that much more. I took that money, got my first camera, DSLR, and I just took advantage of networking. That's one great value I want to give people right now is take advantage of where you're at in your environment and network, talk. You never know who you're talking
Sure.
to, because that led to a lot of my clients for wanting graduation pictures and more. And as I was taking pictures, naturally I bumped into people doing video DSLRs, and went from originally a printing t-shirt business to now having photography, and then networking with people on the college campus, doing video, messing and networking with DJs, then trying to learn sounds.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it just like it slowly progressed as I bumped into each person. And if there's one thing I would tell the audience that are listening today is, as you're going through life, you may not go the traditional route that you thought you was, but it's there for a reason. So maybe you want to go this way, but then life directs you in another way. And now you're learning all the skills and much more to progress, which eventually landed me here today as I was writing books and much more. So I kind of quick summed it because I know you have more
Yeah.
questions. But the main point I want to give is like just enjoy the journey, experiences, and learn from each person that you bump into.
You know, that's great. And you can follow at Soul Productions One on Instagram, also at C Holmes underscore. My sister freelances for a couple local newspapers, and she got in good doing what you just said, where she would just take pictures at sporting events. And then when she posted those pictures, parents said, "Wow, I think I want some senior pictures." And it led
See,
to some wedding pictures, and it really took off. And I feel, and she is my sister, and I'm proud of her, but because she was so teachable, when did you learn the necessity to be teachable and that you didn't know it all?
I will be honest, I was a knucklehead in the beginning. I'm not gonna do much sugarcoat thing because coming straight from 18, 19-year-old, you start making a
Sure.
little money. Sometimes you get a little full of yourself, and then you just eventually you see bigger competition, and someone will be like, "Hey, you may need to start learning and listening." So, but during, let's say, I would say like sophomore, junior year, I really learned like, okay, I'm kind of not keeping up with the pace. I need to sit myself down and learn and just listen. And that is the biggest thing I will say in life in general is, of course, you're going to have natural talents and much more, but you got to come to a point where you got to listen to others so that you can become better. And that is just the process. Even in the classroom, you learn from others and become better. Even the great athletes, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, and much more, had great coaches to teach them different skill sets. They didn't get to that level without having a coach. And so, with my experiences and then learning from others, I hope to do that with my production company by providing the photo, video, have my podcast, Next Level Thinking, and then just taking advantage of all my production skills, networking with others, cut forward to either like capture your moments, like of course, like you said earlier, like weddings, graduations, or just help expose your talents by producing that video or your video to be the expert in your field and much more, because everybody has a dream. I'm just here to help create that content or just help you reach different audiences, and then as you put in the work you connect the pieces bit by bit. So that's the dream.
Yeah, it's a dream, and it does take a special talent to pick that up. And when you were younger, what were your interests? Was it photography or was it sports, music? What were you into as a kid that was just trying to have fun and hang out?
So my interest as a kid, like you can see the transition in mine.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, all straight video games, straight Super Nintendo, Zelda, all that and much more. And then you know how you, I know you know probably know of this show like Toonami, where they
Yeah.
had the anime and all that much more.
Yeah.
Then I got into the popular series of DBZ, Dragon Ball Z,
Sure.
and then the much more of the action. Now, one thing that I loved about, and the reason I'm bringing these up, Toonami and DBZ, is like there was a lot of hidden messages, especially in Toonami in the commercial segments.
Right.
I love how Toonami would have little snippets of mixing multiple anime series, and you I actually highly recommend y'all look these up on YouTube. Just type in Toonami inspiration, because what they would do would mix in a lot of anime, and like I remember one of them. it had a mixture of DBZ Outlaw and I think much more, saying like a boy has the right to dream. He has endless possibilities before him, and you're telling your
Hmm.
little kid. Of course, they're watching anime that,
Right.
but you're hearing this over and over, and then like hearing other parts of it, like you got to go out and pursue your own pathway. So like when you become an
Wow.
adult, you got to step out and go outside your comfort zone and do your own thing. And then I think at near the end, one of that segment is you had uh, he was in a rocket and he was about to blast off, and they were saying like right before that scene, it's like you're just gonna keep running away. A lot of people like to run away from like what they need to run into or confront to overcome and actually elevate. A
Yeah.
lot of people run away from that instead of setting a dream. So it's like little things like that, which from that and then to listening to coming back to Tupac, of course, the West Side, East Side, and all that, much
Right.
more hip
Right.
hop.
Yeah.
But Tupac was a very inspirational poet, revolutionary, and much more. But he had messages in his song, like "Dear Mama," and all that much more that had impacting messages, especially for people who grew up in that culture and difficult childhood and much more. So I was listening to him a lot in his lyrics, and then of course he had Nas and much more. So I had a heavy hip hop inspiration, especially from the heavy lyricists. And then I said, okay, I can write out and to express myself through
Hmm.
my experiences or through others, just watching and looking at other people's experiences and then try to be their voice by writing their story through poetry. And that what led to the Rose Grew from the Concrete Tupac book. And then it came to my writing into high school. And so from there, do my little thing of doing a little rap and much more into photography, into the video, seeing things like all this production, and then Tyler Perry and all that, which is all still in the creative space.
Yeah.
So it's like all these little things I feel like added to forming the person I am today. But I had to go through those. I feel like if I skipped one of those steps, I wouldn't be thinking like I am today.
That's excellent. As a pastor, I always talk about when God's word says we need to renew our mind to be transformed. And it makes me think of your podcast, Next Level Thinking. When did you realize what you thought you knew wasn't enough and you had to go to that next level in thinking?
So I feel like that was a good chunk of my life, to be honest, because I always thought there was something bigger. There has to be something bigger, and that's where like a good chunk. I mean, that like the origin of like next level thinking. It was because like guy always thinking bigger, knowing that his environment is not where it's going to end. Always trying to be creative and find that way to unlock or break through the walls to get beyond the expectation of what society says you are, should be, and go beyond that and much more. And especially when it came to next level thinking, is it started off in the garage with one of my homeboys, and so like I think this is a good. I pretty sure it started around when I started looking at Gary Vee. Gary Vee is very huge on content, posts, and all that, and much more. So I was getting the whole little energy momentum from here from Gary Vee. Like, you just post material, just post it out there, and your voice can be just stop trying to perfect it and just put it out there. And I was like, he has all this content from YouTube. Maybe I should try doing something similar. And I just had that thought process of just always want to elevate. And I said, okay, next level thinking my thoughts. So it started in like the garage of my homeboy, and we hit like multiple different topics all at once on the first episode. Definitely not as structured as it is now, but that was like the beginnings. That's how you start with anything. You come with a plan, like, okay, we're gonna execute like this, and then you're like, okay, we did it, but maybe we shouldn't have did that. Maybe we should do something differently. But that's just the beauty of learning. I mean, from anything, if you think of like any of the great inventions, from electricity, planes, Elon Musk sending rockets out of space, the computers, the smartphones, like never, all of this was at one point impossible. And had a person just constantly, that didn't work, try this, that didn't work, try this, I'll try this again. Just being consistent and not giving up.
Hey, so jump on the gram and follow at Soul Productions one, the number one, at Soul Productions, the number one. Chris Holmes makes some time at C Holmes _. Chris, this last year and a half has definitely been a difficult one where we've needed next level thinking. I am Korean. I was born in Seoul, South Korea, but I was adopted when I was a year old. So I'm more of a Vermont redneck than anything else. But how have you been able to process not just the pandemic or the social injustice or the political unrest, but how have you been able to focus on adding value to others when there seems to be such a divide among everyone at this point?
Yeah, so my production definitely came heavy into this period. It was like a reality check for everyone, to be honest, because we were so used to so many things being at the palm of our hands, and a lot of people thought they were secure, and then that whole safety net just was removed. And like I said, like this, like you said earlier, is a awakening with a lot of different social issues and much more. So when it came to my production, especially when they had the George Floyd march in Houston, I took my camera out and recorded all the different segments of people marching and like letting their voice be heard, because I believe every person has a voice. I always say this phrase that every person every person is a page in the book of life, and we basically need to listen to them and we learn from each other. There's so many different issues. Not only this needs to be addressed, and so I use my podcast to bring different guests to speak on different things, my video to capture those as much more, and then with this, utilizing and realize the value of applications such as Zoom, because
Yeah,
remember the
yeah.
whole all the areas went on lockdown. So many people are used to being in a traditional office space within the walls, and when you can't even go to work because everybody's fearing safety, it makes you or forces you into to adapt to different environments. What is happening today, and I think a lot of people were like, I don't like this, but I feel like that needs to happen. The reason why I said it is because it forced people to be more flexible, and then people started realizing the value of technology in a very harsh kind of time, and finding out different ways where we can still find ways to keep life going in some kind of way, because you had families that couldn't see each other like in person, but then they use Zoom to at least have some kind of form of connection so they can see their face, their emotions, their expressions, and much more. You have people having like parties on Zoom just so they can feel like
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
like out there with everybody else, even though they're inside, just to kind of get that experience. Because in life, you want to explore and get out and much more. So in those situations when fear was on the elevated high level, you had that connection with actual brothers and sisters like me, and you still connecting through Zoom and much more. And with that, I hit a lot of different episodes in my podcast, just giving some inspiration, value, and definitely hitting and challenging the mindset. Because the biggest battle I think in life starts with the mind. You can put, you can form your own reality. You can say in your mind, "Oh, this is horrible. Like, what's going on? Life isn't good." You see how like negative that is,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
or you can switch around and be like, "Okay, this may be a challenge, but we will overcome. Well, we will be great. We will adapt. We will innovate. We will find a solution." It's a completely different kind of energy and just thought process. And so I use my production to give different value or just inspiration or knowledge on when it came to that, because we all go through different challenges. I mean, human nature is to find ways to adapt. We're not just
Yeah.
going to be staying in the fence. You put a person back against the ropes, you're going to find a way to get out.
Right, right. Hey, so how or were you able to connect with your mom and grandparents over this last year and a half?
So my connection with my parents was still pretty close because I have a close bond with Huntsville. And so I was in the area. Of course, during that time, I was barely in Houston, to be honest, because everything was shut down.
Yeah.
Like it was like a ghost town. It was crazy going straight through 45, and you literally go from the south side of Houston to the other side, and within minutes, it's like, okay, it's like one of those surreal movie kind of scenes. But with me personally, I was able to still stay in good involvement with my family because we were all close by, or just for those in different areas to make phone calls, um, just to keep that connection there. And of course, you have some that just use Zoom, and then
Yeah.
you have Facebook, and a lot. That's one of the big platforms where people I just share different posts and just jump into those like private rooms on Facebook. And they can have their connection there. So technology helped me stay connected. I'm pretty sure for everybody else it did as well. But I think the biggest thing with this whole pandemic and learn it will expose a lot of things that was going on with this world that need to have light shined on, which should have been talked about a long time ago. It forced us to adapt, which and then make use of our technology to advance even further. But also, I feel like it made us realize how precious life is.
Yeah.
So we have so much going on. People losing close ones and much more. Like in my home area, I lost a good uh, friend who worked at the prison as a guard, a barber, and these are kind of people that like you think it's not gonna happen to them. They cool, it's
Right.
okay, and they'll be all right, and then all of a sudden just gone. So it made you realize the importance of life, enjoy it, and just live to the fullest.
Yeah, that's really good and a great reminder. If you're speaking to an 11 or 12-year-old kid and you just remember and reminisce back when you were younger, you mentioned that you came from humble beginnings, and a student just says, "Hey, Chris, I just am struggling," whether they define it as mental wellness or not, you can just tell that they're struggling. What advice would you tell to that young student?
Well, I will go back to what someone said previously. It's like your current situation is in your reality. Everybody goes through tough times. I've met people who, like single mothers, homeless, bankruptcy, lost it all, even with your whatever you believe in. In religious texts, yes, Job who lost pretty much everything still came back from that. It's just your thought process and then fighting through it. So you have to put in your mindset. It goes back to it's a mindset thing. Of course, I know it's not easy, but you have to, for most importantly, believe in yourself and having that strong belief in yourself because there's going to be a lot of times where you may be alone. A lot of people fear being alone, but it's the way that you view being alone that can change your reality. You can think of this as like the most traumatic thing, or you can just see it as a time to build yourself. I use it as a time to build myself because I know like this is not going to be the only time I go through like a little down spill, but anytime I have moments like that, I think what happened, see how to address it, or what can I learn from this, and I grow myself. So of course, like I didn't start thinking like this overnight. I had every probably thought that everybody else did, struggling to get overcome, but you keep being persistent. The main thing is being consistent to overcome, and just keep your dreams alive. Keep the belief in your side, and you're gonna hear criticism. Use that criticism as momentum to overcome. Everything that you are doing now will project your future to where you shall become. So don't allow your current situation to determine your end. It's just the beginning. So let it be bright.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Chris Holmes, just staying on with us. A couple questions that won't get you out. Hopefully, fun questions. I think it was on Facebook or perhaps somewhere you posted that you were doing some push ups, that you're trying to get back in shape. How difficult is that to really try to get back into shape? And before you answer, my son was a freshman in college and he started to work out. And so it kind of pushed me to push these old bones to get back in shape. And it's a struggle. It is so tough to get back in shape. But what about yourself? What kind of caused you to say, "Hey, I need to start doing these push-ups," or whatever the rest of your routine is?
Nice. The funny thing is, I've actually been working out for several months already, so I lost a tremendous amount of weight. But it was just a reality check. Um, First, like before even the pandemic, started having honestly like chest pain, started feeling draggy and all that and much more. So honestly, and I'm not saying don't let it get to that point, but it was just a reality check for me that something needs to change so I can start feeling better. And of course, the hardest thing is getting started. So what when you first start, of course, it's gonna be hard. I can't. It was hard. Just I cussed myself out in so many different languages I can think of in the beginning because I'm like, why in the world am I putting myself through this? Especially like the first week, and after your first workout, you was just like, I am sore. I gotta do this again tomorrow. You just hate it, but it's just putting in your mindset to be consistent. So the first week was terrible. I hated it. I super hated it. But I pushed through the second week. It got a little bit better. But one thing is, it's like if you put your mind to perform a certain action, your body will follow. So the first couple to 2, maybe 3 weeks was rough. Then your body adjusts and starts getting used to it. And so I started off doing like just 1 mile a day, and then just started doing from two, and just being persistent with that. And then fast forward, and I got a trainer, and then he hyped this up with the workout routine. Thankfully, I already had a good amount of cardio
Yeah.
before I got to that point. And so he just added more different weights. And so it started really trim my body and much more to physique myself. And because I really want to get like by definition my body. So it's been a good journey. And changing my diet, oh Lord have mercy, that was a challenge. When you are going everywhere and you see all your favorite spots, and you feel like I can't eat this, I can't eat that either. It's like, come on, maybe it's a little bit. Nope, I can't have that. It's just staying disciplined and being consistent with it. Discipline is the biggest thing because it is easy to get off track. It's hard to be consistent with it, but you got to fight through it. But the results will be well worth it. So you got to fight through that, and so you get to the body that you will plan to in the future. Because I lost a good amount of pounds, and then the funny thing about doing this is, as you are consistent with this, you never know who's watching.
Right.
So
right.
now I got people over there. Oh yeah, what's the workout routine? I got people watching, getting motivated, and then you have people who may pull you to the side, like, you motivate me to work out, or like, you know what, I saw these workouts, I noticed I just need to get my stuff together too. You're not like, oh shoot, now I can't stop. Now you have a why, and people watching you. Of course, my why was like, of course, my health and having a better body, but now I also have people looking inspiration of what I'm doing too. So I don't want to be like, oh, well, because he started working out, I thought I was going to, slow down. I'm like, nah, I'm not about to have that weight on me.
Yeah.
I want to keep pushing through and keep other people, because it keeps me accountable to keep going through.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That is so good. And it's a reminder for myself. It's little by little and being consistent instead of just trying to max out every day and blow out your joints. But hey, Chris, I noticed on Facebook that you have 5,000 Facebook friends. I got in just under the wire, but that means like you can't add any more people. How does that make you feel to know that you have maxed out that personal Facebook account?
My honest opinion, it sucks. I hate it. I honestly do hate it with a passion, because I'm constantly going to be networking with different people from across the world. And so, like, at times I have to, like, oh, shoot, let me see what accounts are not doing anything that may have been deleted. Because one thing I wish, I hope Facebook is listening, y'all need to have a feature when people delete their account, instead of taking up space on your friends list, you can kind of filter that out. It'll make everybody's life so much easier. But I don't really like that, because I meet so many different people and like to network with. And at times, like, oh, I sent you a friend request and then go through. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
See what account is not there. One thing that I did start doing, and if I would have known earlier, I did, was like, now I have a Facebook group. So there is no cap when it comes to Facebook group. So anybody I connect with, I try to send them links so they can join that, and just to keep building from there. So on Facebook, if you want to network, do this early, create your group and send people over there. You don't have to worry about your friends.
For sure. And right now you can follow on Instagram at @CHolmes_, also Soul Productions 1, Soul Productions, the number 1. We're going to get you out. Hopefully a fun question. I stole this from Hernando Planos, who is a basketball coach. He has a Be Contagious podcast. I love it so much. But the question he asks his guests at the end is if or when, and probably in your case, when, that feature film is made about your life, who do you want to play you in that feature film?
Oh, man. You don't put me on the spot.
And I'll share. I'll share while you think. I'll give you a little break. So for myself, and my wife just shakes her head now, but I always say Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson can play me in that feature film, and I think we look alike. But yeah, I get laughs every time I mention that. But who plays you in that feature film?
I think, okay, I'll probably go with Spike Lee.
There you go.
Producer.
Yeah.
He has glasses like me too, so I was trying to think something quick on my feet. But I also know he's a deep thinker, and he was really involved when it came to social movements and much more. And so I would definitely be honored to have something like that. Let's say with my great story, and then he is from the producer, not on the actor side, which he has in the past, to do that. That would be like super awesome.
Now I got to throw in Spike had a rough night the other day with Trey Young hitting that floater with 0.9 seconds remaining. Poor Spike, he was doing some dancing earlier, and yeah. So I'm up here in the Northeast. So I'm a Celtics fan, so it's tough for me to see the Knicks do anything good.
You know
So
what that reminds me of? I think it was one of those you probably remember with against I think the Indiana Pacers.
yeah,
I'm
Reggie
trying to
Miller,
remember. But it was I think he didn't like Reggie Miller. I'm pretty
right?
sure that was him.
That is
Yeah,
right.
and then I think he talked noise or whatever, and Reggie Miller was like, "Watch this," and he went off from the three. He just shot multiple 3 points, and I think they had this famous moment where Spike Lee was like this.
Yep. Reggie Miller had 8 points in 9 seconds to beat the Knicks in one of those games. So
Yeah,
go back
that's
and
what it was, and he was
so
like,
it's crazy.
To be kidding.
In the garden. It was fun. It was fun. But Chris, thanks so much for making the time. And we do. I'd love to personally stay in touch, but anything you're doing that we could promote, let me know. And we just wish you all the best. So thanks again for staying up late tonight. And again, that's Chris Holmes making some time at @CHolmes_ on Instagram. Make sure you give him a follow. My name is Jeff Fuller, Jay Fuller Interviews on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And now the Backfire Podcast with Jeff Fuller of Jay Fuller Interviews on Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you check this out. We have some great stories and a lot to learn as people share what is important to them so we can be laborers and renew our mind and get to that next level thinking. Thanks all. We'll talk to you again soon.